For most of human history, money did not exist. The concepts that define modern economic life today are not ancient realities, but recent institutional inventions. Early human societies functioned without formal monetary structure, organizing production and exchange within deeply embedded social relationships, rather than through abstract economic mechanisms. Anthropological research has demonstrated that early economies were not autonomous systems driven by market logic. Instead, they were embedded within social, political, and cultural institutions. Economic activity was inseparable from kinship networks and religious obligations. Exchange was governed primarily by reciprocity rather than profit maximization. Goods circulated through mutual obligation, redistribution, and social prestige. The French sociologist Marcel Mauss provided one of the most influential analyses of these early economic structures in his seminal work, The Gift. Mauss argued that in pre-monetary societies, exchange was not merely a material transaction but a social ritual that created and reinforced relationships. The acts of giving, receiving, and reciprocating gifts formed the foundation of social cohesion. However, as human populations expanded, agricultural settlements emerged, and trade networks extended beyond local communities. These socially embedded systems began to encounter structural limitations. One was what classical economists termed the double coincidence of wants. This concept was articulated in the 19th century by economist William Stanley Jevons. Barter transactions occur only when both parties desire what the other possesses. While such a condition might arise within small communities, it becomes impractical in larger, more complex societies. As trade networks expand and interactions involve strangers, the probability of such perfect alignment of needs declines dramatically. A deeper structural limitation of barter systems was the absence of a universal measure of value. Without a standardized unit, worth depended on subjective negotiation. Every transaction required time-consuming bargaining, reducing efficiency and limiting the scale of economic exchange. From economic history, the emergence of money represents not merely a new exchange tool but the institutionalization of abstract value itself. One critical constraint of barter economies was the inability to preserve value over time. Many goods were inherently perishable or subject to loss. As a result, individuals had limited capacity to store the results of their labor for future use. John Maynard Keynes emphasized that one of the fundamental functions of money is its ability to link the present to the future. In his analysis, money is not simply a medium of exchange but a mechanism for managing uncertainty and enabling long-term planning. Thus, the emergence of money marks a profound turning point in human history, the moment when time itself became economically manageable across different regions of the world. Early societies independently developed proto-monetary systems to address these structural challenges. In ancient Mesopotamia, silver measured by weight served as a standardized unit of account. In China, bronze objects and later coinage facilitated exchange. In parts of Africa and Asia, cowrie shells circulated widely as accepted mediums of value. What unified these diverse forms of early money was not their intrinsic material utility but their social acceptance. Aristotle, writing in the 4th century BCE, recognized this principle when he observed that money exists not by nature, but by convention. He understood that the value of money does not derive from its physical properties but from collective agreement within a community. This collective agreement represents one of the most significant acts of abstraction in human history. For the first time, value became detached from physical objects. Labor, time, and production could be represented symbolically through a standardized medium. The sociologist Georg Simmel later described money as pure abstraction. According to Simmel, money transforms social relationships by replacing personal bonds with impersonal, universal equivalents. This transformation enables large-scale economic coordination among individuals who have no direct social ties. The implications of this abstraction were profound. With the emergence of money, trade networks expanded dramatically, specialization increased, and urbanization accelerated. Economic interactions could now occur between strangers across vast distances, no longer constrained by personal trust or reciprocal obligations. Historians frequently identify this transition as a threshold moment in the development of complex societies. Because money is not merely an economic instrument, it is also a political one. The ability to standardize currency enabled early states to collect taxes, finance military campaigns, and consolidate administrative control. Monetary systems became foundational tools of state formation and political centralization. Consequently, the history of money is inseparable from the history of power. Modern historian Yuval Noah Harari characterizes money as one of humanity's most powerful collective belief systems. He argues that money is the most universal and efficient mechanism of mutual trust ever created, enabling cooperation among millions of strangers. From this perspective, money is not merely an economic technology but a sociological and political innovation that fundamentally reshaped human civilization. Yet money contains a profound paradox. Despite its immense influence, money possesses no inherent value. It is not food, shelter, or survival itself. Its power derives entirely from collective belief. Money functions because societies trust that others will accept it in future exchange. Therefore, the history of money is ultimately the history of humanity's capacity to generate shared trust, and this story was only beginning, because the early proto-monetary systems would soon give way to a material whose properties would elevate money into a global mechanism of power. That material was gold. Its rarity, durability, and universal desirability would transform money into a foundation of global economic order,